If you're new to EA Sports College Football or you just want to refresh your memory, here's a full complete guide on everything you need to know to play EA Sports College Football. I've compiled some of my older videos and put some new tips in here that we need to go over. Passing the ball, running the ball, defense, and everything in between. Let's first start with passing the ball. Number one is going to be one of the most important things you need to get better with, and that is climbing the pocket, aka having good pocket presence. This is going to help you avoid getting sacks. What you don't want to do is you do not want to drift back like this because number one, this makes the ball hang up in the air longer and it allows the defense to make plays. This also just makes your blocking much worse. This makes it easier for the defense to shed their blocks and get after you. You also don't want to immediately snap the ball and run outside the pocket because you're also making it easier for the pass rush. What you want to do is use the left stick to climb the pocket, and when you do that, you'll also have running lanes like this sometimes. But what climbing the pocket is going to do for you is it's going to give you the opportunity to buy time. Look how much time I had there to pass, and then eventually I scrambled. But by being able to move around, I can anticipate block sheds, I can get around them, and I can buy myself the time I need. The reason people feel like they don't have time to pass in this game is because they're not giving themselves extra time to pass. Now, don't get me wrong, this takes time. You need to get into practice mode and you need to practice this. And even right here, we did take a sack, but the good thing is when you're climbing the pocket, if you do take a sack, it's going to be a sack that results in less yardage. Meaning you might lose 3 to 5 yards on a sack, but you're not going to be losing 10 yards as you would if you were rolling backwards. Now, yeah, sometimes you are just going to get block shedded insanely quick, but by climbing the pocket, you are going to give yourself the best chance to buy more time and get the ball out before taking a sack. This is something you must practice if you want to become a better passer. Now, hey, if you're still here at this point of the video and you haven't subscribed, you might as well go ahead, subscribe, turn the bell icon on. That way you never miss out on any of the best college football tips all year long. Unless you just don't want to win more games all year long. If that's the case, then do not subscribe. Number 2, pass leading. You need to learn how to pass lead if you want to make sure you're throwing your receivers open. So right here, for example, we can see that we have 2 crossing routes on this play. We have one that goes deep and we have one that's more like a drag. Now with these type of routes, you would want to pass lead them typically in front of the receiver. That way you give them room to catch it and possibly get extra yards. You pass lead with the left stick by holding it in the direction that you want to lead the pass. So for example, if I'm trying to throw this B route, I'm leading that stick to the left and I'm putting the ball out in front. Now watch right here, for example, I'm not going to pass lead it in front. I'm just going to throw a regular pass, and notice how this time the pass was not out in front and it got picked. We'll show that again. Here we're not going to throw any pass lead, and you'll notice that he still caught it, but look how close the defender was. Now instead, if I hold the left stick to the left as I'm passing it, notice how it puts the ball in front and I'm able to catch it and run for extra yards. Now let's look at this underneath route. I'm going to pass lead this all the way out in front, and look how I can catch it and run and get extra yards. The idea here is to put the ball only where your receiver can get it, and then you can possibly get extra yards out of it. Now right here, I'm just going to throw a regular pass to him, and look what happens here. It gets swatted down because I didn't put it in front. Now you can pass lead up, down, left, or right. So when you're throwing a route that crosses the field, like a crossing route, a drag, a slant, you're typically going to want to lead that ball out in front, especially if a defender is trailing him. But if you're throwing a route to the sideline, like a corner route here, for example, you're going to want to lead this to the sideline like this. You want to put it out as far in front of that defender as you can. Really quickly, I do want to mention that I have a membership where I post all of my ebooks and my highest level offensive and defensive strategies to help you dominate your opponents. And I'm running a limited time free trial right now, so you can check out the link in the pinned comment below at no cost to you. Number 3, take your checkdowns. This is one of the most important things I can teach you about passing the ball. Everybody wants to go deep every play, and that's just not the best way to play the game. You typically want to try to have 2 checkdowns on every play. One of them will usually be your halfback, and then the other one will be your tight end, or it could be like a slot receiver on a drag or something of that nature. So right here, we have 2 checkdown options in the flats. We have the running back and the tight end, and these are going to be great against zone defenses. Flat routes against zone defense is great. Look, we're easily able to pick up 5 yards, and the ball comes out quick. Watch how quick we are able to get the ball out and pick up easy yardage, 4 to 5 yards a play. Again, a lot of people in this game complain that blocking is not good enough, and let's be honest, sometimes the blocking is bad, but by climbing the pocket and taking checkdowns, it is almost impossible to get sacked. Yes, I'm not saying it's never going to happen. I'm not going to say they're never going to get an instant block shed, but look how play to play, I'm able to get the ball out quick. I see the flat, I take it, I'm getting 4 to 5 yards, and if you're doing that, you're getting a first down every few plays. Now let's look at another example. Here I have 2 checkdown options. Again, my tight end and my running back. Now, what most people want to do if they run a play like this is they say, I want to throw to the B receiver. That's a deep cross slash, kind of post. And hey, look, I can get that open and score a touchdown. Yes, it was there, and that's perfectly fine. But the thing is, if you're trying to do that every single play, what's going to happen is by waiting for that to happen, sometimes you're going to get sacked like this, and then you're going to be in a bad situation. So when I say to take your checkdowns, what I really mean is take them when you see them available right away. Because it's better to take 4 to 5 yards instantly than to go for the deep route every single time. Because what happens when you do this more often than not is you're going to keep the chains moving and you're going to take a lot less sacks. And you're going to avoid throwing interceptions because you're not going to be getting hit as you throw the ball. Here's another example. I have 2 drags on this play here. These are both considered check down options. And versus most defenses, these guys are going to be open quickly because drag routes pretty much beat everything. They get underneath a lot of zone coverages and they beat man because they cause a pick. If you want to improve as a passer, this is what the best passers do. They do not pass up the early open read if it's right there. Now, to go along with this tip, I also want to throw in there, use your running back a lot in the passing game. He's one of your most valuable receiving options. And what you want to do is just put him on different routes. You can do this by pressing Y or triangle, selecting his icon, and then look at all of the running back hot routes you have to your advantage. Some really popular ones are the out and the in. So you could put him on an out route like this, or an in route like this. Now, on this play here, for example, I wouldn't put him on an in route because we already have other routes running that way. So what we want to do is have him running to a different area of the field. So we could put him on an out route, for example. And this is going to be really, really good because these get under zone very quickly. They beat man and they're a natural check down. So try using in and out routes to your running back and you'll notice that these are sometimes the hardest for your opponents to defend. Another great option is the Texas route, which is up on the D-pad. This is a really good man beater, but it also can get underneath zones as well. Again, you want to abuse your running back in the passing game because most people don't defend them well. Also, sometimes just streaking him out of the backfield can be a nice little quick dump down option against zone defense as well because the other receivers will clear out space and look, your running back will be wide open for an easy gain. And again, you can also just send him to the flat, which is up on the right stick. That's always a good option as well. Again, your running back is going to be a good check down option for you, but he's going to be able just to beat defenses in general. Number 4, good route combos. I'm going to show you some route combos that's going to make passing a lot easier for you. Now, the best one that you can do in any football game, whether it be college football or Madden, this is always going to work. You want to use a bunch formation like this, where you have 3 receivers bunched up really close to each other. And the route combo you want to set up is putting the outside guy on a streak, the inside guy on a corner, and then you want to put your tight end on either a flat route so that it looks like this, or in this game, you can also put him on a zig route, which I really like because a zig route is good for man and zone, whereas a flat route isn't going to beat a man defender. Now, to make passing easy, what you really want to do is you want to set up route combos like this that make it easier to read the field, because really all we're doing right here is just reading a third of the field instead of trying to read the whole field at one time. This is a lot easier. We're focused on these 3 routes. Now, what's going to happen here against zone defense is you're going to be able to throw to either the tight end or the corner route. It's a high-low read. The streak is really just here to draw coverage deep. It's a decoy. And if it's a man coverage, typically either A or RB will also be open as they beat their man on the break. So let's show you how this looks. We can see, okay, the tight end's open, quick dump down. He's also a check down. Everything's coming together. We saw that our check down was open and we took it, but he was also the right read on the play. Again, he's the right read there and we pick up 5 to 6 yards. Now watch here on this example. Notice how the tight end isn't open because the cornerback plays down, but instead we have the corner route behind him for a huge gain. By breaking the field down into a third like this, it makes it super easy for you to identify between 2 receivers which one's going to be open, and it helps you move the ball. Now, if you want to take this up a step and get a little more advanced and give yourself some extra options, you can do something like taking the X receiver here and put him on an in route, for example. What this does is give us a backside option in case we just don't like the look on the right side of the field. If we're taking our initial look and for some reason we're not liking the tight end or the corner route, then it makes it easier for us to progress to the left or to the middle of the field for a brief second and see if our backside route is an option.
So what we would do as we climb the pocket, we could see, all right, we have the backside in route coming open, and the spacing of the play makes it really easy for us to read this because we can glance to the right momentarily and say, you know what, I'm not liking this. Let me get the ball out. I got to check it down. I don't want to hold it too long and take a sack. Now let's look at another concept that's really good in every playbook. What you want to do is go over to the concept tab in your playbook. You want to go down to medium pass, and then you want to tab over to the mesh concept. Now I just showed this when we talked about checkdowns, but this is something you're going to really want to use. Look at all the different mesh concepts we have in this book. Typically when you run a mesh, you're going to have two drags on a play running opposite sides each other, and you're going to have a number of these in your playbook. This is a tried and true concept that's going to work great because it's going to beat man by creating a pick, but usually against most zones, it's going to get underneath those zones unless they play aggressively. But if they play aggressively, that means the deeper routes would become open as well. So you can see right here, we're reading the play. Okay, we're going down to our drag, we're catching it, and we're running. It plays into everything I've taught you. Pocket presence, getting the ball out quick, check downs, and it's a good route combo. Hey, we only got 4 yards, we'll take it. But this is how you're going to become a better passer in this game, by getting the ball out quick and using good route combos that make that easy. For tip number 5, I'm going to teach you how to protect the ball. And I also have a nice little bonus tip coming after this as well that you don't want to miss. Now, when I say protecting the ball, this encompasses a few different things. The first one is going to be what to do against a blitz. In this game, you're going to find that a lot of people like to use cover zero blitzes like the one I'm about to run right here. It's the infamous mid blitz out of double mug. Now, if I don't block anybody, there's going to be a free rusher at the QB just like this, and it's impossible to pass under those circumstances. Sure, I can climb the pocket and I can try to get the ball out, but when there's a free rusher, he's coming in so quick that it's just almost impossible for me to get the ball off. So if you're playing people that are constantly blitzing you or sending that extra rusher, you have to block your running back. You have to give your QB time to make a pass. So you do this by pressing Y or triangle, selecting his icon, which brings up the hot routes, and then you can block him by pressing the right trigger or the R2 button. Now that he's blocked, he is going to help me pick up that extra rusher, and it's going to give me a chance to get the ball out. So now watch what happens. He picks up the rusher, and I'm able to deliver a pass, and look at that. I picked up huge yards. Now, I know I said that you want to use your running back in the pass game as much as possible, but that's all dependent on your opponent. If your opponent's blitzing, you need to have him in there to help with pass protection so that you're able to have a chance to get the ball off. Now, the other part about protecting the ball is sometimes you have to throw it away. Sometimes nothing's there. Sometimes the pressure's coming in and you want to get rid of the ball. You do this by pressing the right analog stick in as if it was a button. You want to click it in. Now, do be mindful, if you're going to throw it away, you might want to try to scramble before throwing it away so that you don't get intentional grounding. Now, if you want to throw the ball away in the pocket, you do want to make sure that you have some type of a quick route going to the sideline. So for example here, if I have my X receiver on this little speed out, he's immediately going to the sideline. So if I throw the ball away in the pocket, they're going to throw the ball away right where he's at to prevent intentional grounding. So make sure when you're throwing the ball away, you're either getting outside of the pocket or you do have an immediate route going to the sideline. Now, as a bonus tip, you need to be using this in your passing game because it's almost foolproof. You want to go over to play type in your playbook. You want to select pass, and then it's going to already start you out under quick pass. What you want to do is use jet touch passes. You should have a number of these in your playbook, and it'll usually be on the first page. These are pass plays that are low risk, high reward because you can't throw an interception on them, but you also can get some huge yards out of them. So make sure throughout the game that you are mixing these into your passing game if you want to get easy yards with very low risk of anything bad happening.
Next up, let's move on to running the ball and everything you need to know about that. So first, let's talk about the ball carry moves. You can juke by flicking the right stick to the left or the right to do a little sidestep juke like that. Now, if you want a better juke, you can hold down the sprint button, which is the R2 or RT button, while juking, and you're going to get a more exaggerated juke. The other move you really want to know about is the spin. You get this by pressing the B or circle button. The spin move and the juke are both pretty good in this game. And just like with the juke, you can do a more exaggerated spin by holding down the sprint button while spinning, and you're going to cover more ground and make defenders miss you a lot easier. If you want to hurdle somebody, you're going to press the Y or triangle button. I don't really use this a whole bunch, but at times it can be useful when a player's trying to hit you low. To stiff arm, you want to press the A button on Xbox or the X button on PlayStation, and this can help you get some extra yards and break tackles. Another important thing to know is giving yourself up. So if you want to go down and avoid hits, you tap the X or square button very quickly. And if you want to dive at the pylon to try to score, you will hold the X or square button. Now, when running the ball, it's very important, just like with passing, don't really predetermine where you're going to go. Try your best to read your blockers and see what's open. Do not hold the sprint button behind the line of scrimmage because that causes the defense to block
block shed a lot quicker. What you want to do is you only want to hold the sprint button once you're clearly in the open field and you're trying to pull away. So right here, for example, is when I would now sprint because I'm trying to pull away once I'm at the second level. You don't want to do this behind the line of scrimmage. You want to be patient behind the line of scrimmage, and sometimes there's not going to be a lane to just pull away in. Sometimes you're only going to get a couple yards, but in the event that you have it, you pull away just like this once you've gotten to that part of the field. Now under center, you're going to want to look at runs like halfback dives, inside zones, stretches. Those are going to be your best. Now for shotgun, you're going to want to look for plays like inside zone, or you're going to want to look at a play like a halfback base. Those are going to be your better shotgun runs. And the same principles apply. Just be patient, read the lanes, only press the sprint button if you're in the open field. And of course, we've got to talk about options because this is college football. You can go to the concept tab on your playbook. You can go down to option, and there's a bunch of different types of options, read options, RPOs. I like the load and speed options the best. I think they're the easiest to run and they get good yards. More times than not, you're going to pitch the ball in the option, and you do this by holding the LB or L1 button, and this is what you're going to get. You're going to get the open field with the running back, and typically you're going to pick up big yards with this. I think this is a very, very good type of run that a lot of people just simply don't know how to defend. You can keep it with the quarterback if you see the defender starts to cheat to the running back. I still pitch the ball a lot on this because even when they do cheat to the running back, they don't fully commit a lot of times, and you're able to pick up big yards. Now let's talk about how to beat man defense. So the first route we're going to look at is a halfback angle route or a Texas route. Some plays come with this stock, and you can absolutely cook linebackers, especially with a good running back. But you can also hot route this on any play by pressing the wire triangle button, select the running back's icon, and then press up on the D-pad for the Texas option. You can do this on literally any play in the game, so this is always available to you, and it's going to be one of the best ways to cook man defense in this game. Another great option, especially from slot receivers, are zig routes. So we can put our slot receiver here on a zig route by pressing the wire triangle button to pull up our hot routes. We select his icon, and then we look for the zig option on our hot route, which is going to be left on the D-pad for this receiver, and you'll see that he fakes inside, cuts back to the outside, and this is one of the best man-beating routes in the game. Another route that's really consistent against a man usually is going to be slant route. So I'm going to put my slot receiver on a slant by pressing wire triangle, selecting his icon, and then we look for the slant option here, which is right on the right stick. Sometimes it'll be a different part of the joystick depending on which side of the field he's on, but this can typically do pretty good against man, especially if you have a good receiver. Just throw the ball out in front, catch and run for big yards. Another good man-beating option are deep cross routes. So here in the play verticals, we can see that red deep cross. Those are really good. Now you can hot route these as well, but they come stock on a lot of plays too, and these are typically going to do really good at beating man. Up next, we're going to talk about how to beat zone defense. So to beat zone defense, one of my favorite things to do is to have 3 receiving options on one side of the field. So you can see here in trips tight end, we have 3 receiving options on the left side of the field. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hot routes. I'm going to put the Y receiver on the zig route, and I'm going to put my X receiver on a curl. So this is kind of a curl flat concept here where one of them should be open against zone. So if the zones play standard and they play back, we can hit that zig for about 4 to 5 yards. But if they play more aggressive and they shade their zone defense down, then the curl will be wide open behind it, just like this. Another great option for beating zone is flooding it. Now, a popular flood concept with 3 receivers on one side of the field is a streak corner flat. So we're going to put X on a streak. We could put Y on a zig or a standard flat. I like the zig just in case it's man defense. He can beat that too. And we put the B receiver on a corner. You can hot route all of these by pressing wire triangle and selecting their icons. Now, what this does here is it gives us a high-low. We got the flat underneath, which will beat standard zones, but you're going to also have the corner route that, because it's a deep corner, it'll beat some standard zones, but it'll also beat aggressive zones as well. And the streak is back there to clear out the deep guy, leaving the corner open on the sideline. So this is a great way to attack zone coverages. And whether it's man or zone defense, we got to talk about this play, the jet touch pass. It's in pretty much every playbook, usually in multiple formations. So look through your playbooks and see which formations has the jet touch pass. Usually they're in pistol or shotgun. And this is one of the best plays you can run in this game. The blocking is just out of this world on this play. The defense struggles to stop this play. You got to play against a pretty good user in order for them to stop this. But whether they're in man, whether they're in zone, whether they're blitzing, playing all out coverage, this play is going to be one of the best things you can go to, especially as a beginner. Just follow the blocks and get big yardage. And to go along with that, halfback slip screens are the same as well. You can find these in pretty much any formation in your playbook. You do need to get the ball out quick. You want to make sure not to get sacked, but these work especially well versus zone defenses and blitzes. They can work okay against man defense sometimes as well, but these are very good in this year's game. And if you're a beginner, you want to use these types of plays, low risk, high reward, to move the ball. Now we got to move on to defense, one of the most important parts of the game. Here's everything you need to know.
The first thing we have to talk about is matching personnel. When you're in a game, whether it's versus the computer or another opponent, let them pick their offensive play first. A little pop-up will appear on the screen that lets you know their personnel. It might say 3 receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end, and basically you're going to use that to determine which set you should come out in. If the personnel says that there's 2 wide receivers or less, you typically want to be in something like a 4-3 or a 3-4 formation depending on your playbook. With this game, you might not have those formations. You might have something like 4-2-5 or 3-3-5 stack, 3-3-5 high, something like that. But basically, you want to have guys in the box because if they're coming out in 2 receivers or less, that means they're probably running the ball. Now, if you see that they have 3 receivers on the field, that's when you want to start looking at nickel sets. Nickel gives you an extra cornerback on the field, so you're matching speed for speed. If you see them come out with 4 receivers, you want to look at something like a dime or a dollar defense because that's going to give you 4 cornerbacks on the field. This is why you don't want to come out in a 3-4 or a 4-3 if your opponent's showing 3 receivers, for example, because one of the receivers is going to either be matched up with a linebacker or a safety, which is typically going to be a mismatch. If you had come out in a nickel set, you would have a cornerback matched up on him, and that would be a better matchup speed for speed. Now, if you're in a zone defense, this doesn't matter as much, but typically you still want to have the proper amount of speed on field to match the offense. Now, on the flip side of this, you don't want to come out in a nickel or a dime set if your opponent is showing 2 or less receivers because there's a high chance that he's going to run the ball. So if the offense has those extra big bodies on the field like tight ends and blockers, you don't want to come out in a defense that has all these smaller DBs on the field because that's going to put you at a disadvantage if he runs the ball and you're going to likely get gashed for easy yards. Now let's talk about basic adjustments. So if you want to adjust your defensive line, what you want to do is you want to press left on the D-pad and this will pull up your defensive line adjustments. You can see on the left stick and on the right stick you have a bunch of different things you can do. If you want to slide them left, you go left on the left stick and you see the line slides left. So if you're expecting like a run to that side or something, you can do that. If you want to slide to the right, it's the opposite. You're going to go to the right. You can pinch them down as well, which is also something good to do if you're suspecting a run up the middle. Or you can spread them out if you want to get a little bit better pass rush. You can also slant them to the left, to the right, outside, or down. So for example, if you're expecting the run, you might want to pinch them and then you might want to slant them to the inside like this to help you get some push up the middle. To adjust your linebackers, you press right on the D-pad and then that brings up your linebacker options. So you can shift them to the left, you can shift them to the right, you can spread them, and you can pinch them down. Now, if you want to zone out all of your linebackers, you can go up on the right stick and it'll put them both in zones like this. If you want to blitz all of your linebackers, you can go down on the right stick and now you will see the linebackers are blitzing. Now, hey, if you're still here at this point of the video and you haven't subscribed yet, you might as well go ahead and subscribe, join the family, because you're basically already a part of the family anyway. That way you can stay up to date with all the best college football tips all year long to help you win more games. Now, moving on to the secondary, to adjust them, you press the Y or triangle button, and you can see you have a bunch of options on the sticks here as well. 2 of the more popular ones are going to be to either give cushion by going up on the left stick. This is what you do if it's a big play or before half, right at the end of the game. You don't want to give up a big play. You want to back them up. Another thing you can do is press them by going down on the left stick, which is another popular thing. Just be careful with pressing because you can get beat over the top pretty easily pressing. It's a kind of a high risk, high reward. So just be mindful of that. Now you can also show some disguised coverages with this as well. So you can see left on the left stick says show 2, which means we're going to show a cover 2 look. Now we're in a cover 3 right here, and you can tell because there's one safety at the top of the screen. If we go to show 2, notice how the defense realigns to show a cover 2, but we're still actually in a cover 3. And you can do the same thing with the show 3 feature by going right on the left stick. So if you came out like in a cover 2 defense or a cover 4, you can adjust this to show a cover 3 on field. Now you can also shade your defense, which is really important. You can shade over the top by going up on the right stick. You can shade to the inside or the outside by going left to right, and you can shade underneath, which is really useful with zone defense. Now over top usually is something I'll do if I am trying again to not get beat deep. If I'm in man and I want my guys to bail a little bit and make sure that they get back. Underneath is something I'm going to do a lot of times if I'm in like maybe a cover 2 or a cover 3 zone. That's going to tell all of my intermediate defenders to kind of play down into the flats in the drag area of the field. So let me show you an example of this. This is a standard cover 3. I'm going to put 2 drags on this play to my tight end and to the wide receiver. And this is something a lot of people have trouble stopping. You can see, oh my goodness, the tight end's wide open and he's running for almost 10 yards. Well, if I shade my defense down by pressing a Y or triangle and then down on the right stick, I want you to notice how the cover 3 changes. Now we have hard flats on the field instead of curl flats. The 2 yellow hook zones are also going to play a little more aggressive. So now watch what happens when I try to throw this same tight end route. Notice how we get a pick because we told him to play underneath. Now he's playing aggressive. This is one of the best things you can learn as a beginner because If you just come out in standard coverages, a lot of people are going to dink and dunk you to the flats and underneath. Occasionally shade down to catch them off guard, and you can get big stops and picks this way. Let's show another example of this. So again, we're in the standard cover 3 here, and I'm going to throw this flat route to the running back. Now, I'm not going to get a ton of yards here. I mean, we missed the tackle, but let's just say I should have got 2 or 3 yards. Nothing crazy, but sometimes can be backbreaking. Well, if we shade down, again, you're going to see we've got hard flats on the field. They're going to play more aggressive. Now when we go to throw this route, I want you to watch how the defender is right on top of him, and that time he limited it to no yards, and that could have easily also been a pick if he was a little quicker, or it could have knocked the ball out and been incomplete altogether. Now I do want to mention really quickly that I do have a membership where I post my ebooks, all of the best defenses and schemes in the game. If you really want to take your game to a higher level and win all of your online games, make sure to hit the link in the pinned comment below. Now let's talk about individual player adjustments. So if I get on my linebacker here, I can press the A button on Xbox or the X button on PlayStation, and I could put him in a wide variety of different things. If I want to drop him over the deep middle in a middle third, I can go up on the left stick, and you can see now he's going to drop to the deep middle. We don't need that on this play because we already have our safety back there, but just to show you an example. If we want to put him into a hard flat, we can go right on the right stick, and you can see he's dropping into the hard flat now. If we want to man him up, we go up on the right stick for man coverage, and then we will select the person we want to man him up on. So let's say we want to kind of bracket the B receiver, put an extra guy on him, right? We got a guy over the top, which is this guy back here, but now this guy will run out here and kind of help to bracket him a little bit better. We can blitz him down by going down on the right stick. We could put him into a QB spy by going left on the right stick, which is a very important adjustment to stop mobile QBs, which I'll get to in a little bit. And I can do this on any player. I can go to the cornerback over here, and if I want to put him into a cloud flat, I can go down on the left stick, and now he's in a cloud flat. Now, of course, we're leaving the deep field on the right side open, but it's just an example that you can change anybody you want on the field. You can even do this on the D line. If I want to get some extra guys in coverage, I can drop my defensive line into a vertical hook, and you can see now we've got another guy over the middle of the field. I can put my defensive end in a spy if I have a fast defensive end and I want him to spy a fast QB. Now, if you're a beginner, I would not suggest changing a lot of stuff right now because that's going to be a little overwhelming. There's only a few things I would really recommend doing that we've gone over, which is backing up your secondary if it's like the end of half or a big play, shading underneath in zone if you're trying to stop the short routes, pinching your D line if you're worried about the run. Those are kind of really simple, quick things you can do. The only other couple of adjustments I would make as a beginner are using contains and QB spies to stop mobile QBs. Now, we're going to switch teams right quick so I can show you a faster QB. All right, now we've got Jalen Milroe, the most electric QB in the game, over 90 speed, very hard to stop. So to do a QB contain, you press the RB or R1 button twice. 1, 2. Now you'll see your outside pass rushers are going to be in contain assignments. Now, let me let you know this. Sometimes contains do bug out and don't work as intended. But against average players that aren't trying to purposely glitch out the contains, this will do a pretty good job at stopping mobile QBs. So what happens is if I try to take off with Milroe, you'll see the contain is out there. His job is to make sure I don't get to the outside. We're going to do it again. RB twice for me because I'm on Xbox, contain, and you can see I can't get to the outside and I'm losing a bunch of yards. The other thing you can do is the QB spy, like I said. So typically you want to make sure you're putting a pretty fast guy in a spy because that's going to be important. So whether it's a defensive end, like an edge rusher right here, like Pierce, who's going to be really fast, you know, him, I would like to leave him rushing though, just because he's such a good pass rusher. So we'll just take one of our linebackers. I'm not sure how fast these guys are, but we had A or X depending on your system, left on the right stick. Now he's in a spy. And what happens here is he will literally follow the QB. He will spy him. So if I'm trying to run, he's going to be there to meet me. Now that guy was clearly not that fast. I probably still could have got some good yards. So let's put Pierce in the spy here just to show you because I know he's a lot faster. We're going to try to roll out and I'm going to show you, you know, just how good he is. Look, I'm trying to roll. I'm trying to get to the outside. I just can't because he's too fast. That's what a QB spy can do for you. The next thing we're going to talk about is pass committing and run committing, but pay very close attention because this can get you in a little bit of trouble and you need to be careful with it. So to run commit or pass commit, you press the RB or R1 button and you can see that on the right stick here, you have the ability to guess pass by going up on the right stick, or you can guess the run to the left, the run to the right, or the run up the middle. Now, if it's a very obvious running situation, like if it's on the goal line, you know, a place where you can't really get beat over the top if you guess wrong, it's okay to use run commit. Just be very careful because if you do run commit and they're passing, you could give up a touchdown. But for example, if I think they're running up the middle, I could press RB or R1 and then down on the right stick to guess run up the middle. And what'll happen is you'll see everybody kind of rushes down to commit to the run. We still are able to fall forward for a few yards there. That's another reason why I don't love run committing too much because, sometimes it still doesn't even do that much for you. Obviously, if you get in there with your user, you can help limit it as well. But run committing, it's very hit or miss, and a lot of times it's more risk than it's worth. So just be very mindful of that. I use it on the goal line sometimes, but that's about it. Now, pass committing, on the other hand, is actually very useful. For example, if it's a 3rd and long and they're not going to run the ball, you can guess pass because it's going to help your defensive ends actually get to the QB quicker. It's going to kind of have them pin their ears back a little more, and they'll block shit a little quicker. But it's also very useful for the play action game. Now, versus the play action, this can be really good because if you're running someone that just loves to run play action, you're going to want to send some extra rushers at them, like send a blitz at them, but you want to pass commit by going RB, R1, and then up on the right stick. This will let your defense know not to bite on the run, to only focus on the QB, and this will have you in a situation where you can sack the QB coming off the play action a good amount of the time. So it'll look something like this. I'm doing the play action. As soon as I go to try to throw, it's too late. I'm sacked because I was sending a heavy blitz and I pass committed. So right here, I'm sending 6 guys at the QB because if you want to beat a play action, you do typically want to send an extra rusher or 2 just to be safe. And with what I'm doing here is I'm sending that extra rusher. I'm pass committing, telling my defense, focus on the pass. I can't get the ball off now because they're free rushing and they're not biting on the play action. Now let's talk about the coverages that you need to know about, the most basic ones that are good for beginners. So if you go over to the concept tab on your playbook, you can press the LB, RB, or L1, R1 to cycle through the tabs on your playbook. You want to go to concept. Now, the first thing you want to know is cover 2 man. This is like the safest coverage in the game, and man coverage is definitely better than zone in this game, so this is important. This is going to be man across the board, 2 deep safeties over the top, so everybody's accounted for. It's hard to get beat over the top. If it's passing situations, use the pass commit. If you have a good D line, just let them go to work. The next important coverage is cover 2, but you want to use Tampa 2. You don't really want to use cover 2 hard flat or cover 2 invert. Those can be okay, but Tampa 2 for beginners is where you're going to want to be. So there's a bunch of different versions of Tampa 2. As long as it says Tampa 2 in the play and not cover 2 hard flat, cover 2 invert, you'll be good. Basically what a Tampa 2 is going to do is it's going to try to keep most things in front of you. You can beat it deep, but you have to have very precise passes and you have to be a good player to do it. This will keep a lot of stuff in front and they'll rally down, and it just kind of makes people, the average person have to dink and dunk you down the field, which leaves more opportunities for them to make mistakes. Then you've got cover 3 zone. Now make sure you're not calling cover 3 match. You want to do something like cover 3 sky, or if it just says plain cover 3, that's good. Cover 3 hard flat is good as well, but that's basically going to be a cover 3 that is shaded down essentially, so it's going to play more aggressive, just so you know that. You can call a regular cover 3 sky and do your shade underneath and kind of have the best of both worlds. You can pick, do you want to play standard or do you want to play underneath, but just don't pick cover 3 match because that doesn't work the same. Cover 3 is going to be a pretty safe coverage versus most players to not let up anything deep. Again, it's going to kind of keep a lot of stuff in front of you and rally down. This one is a little bit better at protecting deep than cover 2, and more times than not, you're going to be pretty safe with this. Now for blitzing, the easiest thing to do is to go to man blitz in your playbook, and what you want to do here is you want to look at the plays. Notice all the red lines, those are players who are rushing the QB. So you want to pick a play that has 6 red lines. That means you're rushing 6, and by default the offense is blocking 5, which is the O-line. Most players aren't going to block their running back. They don't go into the extra protections. They just block the 5 guys. So if you send 6 versus 5, you have a numbers advantage and you can get a free rusher. So look at some of the different plays in here that have 6 guys rushing. So for example, this play sting pinch has 6 guys rushing. That's perfect. Now you could see here the offense has everybody going out. Only 5 people are blocking. So that means somebody is coming free, and there we go. We got a free rusher at the QB. Now when you're blitzing, keep in mind something's going to be open. That's the nature of blitzing. When you're sending a blitz, you're leaving everybody on an island or you're leaving the flats open or something. So a good player might pick up on that and find the open spot. But again, this is beginner tips. So if you're going up against beginners or average players, they might not do this, and this will be an easy way to get to the QB. Just don't try to do this every play. Mix it in, try to catch him off guard. That's the beauty of blitzing. If you're playing cover 2, cover 3, cover 2 man, you're throwing a lot of coverage at him, you're making them have to dink and dunk, and then occasionally, here's a 3rd down, now you pull out a blitz, they're not expecting it because you've been dropping everybody back, and that's how you can get some stops. The next important thing we have to go over is your settings. There's a lot of different settings in this game, and people don't know what they do, so I'm going to tell you exactly which settings you want to be using in college football. Now, the first few settings we're going to go over are going to be in the main game settings menu. So to do this on the home screen, you can tab over to the settings menu with RB or R1 and click game settings. This first setting might not seem like it would have that much impact, but since tackling is hard in college football 25, it actually does. You want to make sure that your defensive heat seeker assist is turned to on, and there's some other things we can actually do with this to make it better. But basically, this is going to help steer any defender
defender once you click onto him into the ball carrier. This will make it easier for you to lock onto the player with the ball and help make the tackle. Now you also have a defensive heat seeker assist window, and most people think that 100% is as high as this goes, but actually this can go all the way up to 200%. The higher you put this up, the easier you're going to suction to a player to assist you on the tackle. Now some people might think 200% is a little too high. I've seen some people say that they actually think that this helps them better. I would play around with this anywhere between 100 and 200, test it out and see which one works best for you. Now for setting number 2, we're going to be staying in this main menu screen, and something that the best players know that you might not know is how good this next setting actually is, and that is the defensive ball hawk. You want to make sure this is always turned to on. Sometimes people have this turned off for some reason. It should be on by default, but definitely double check and make sure. This is going to make sure that when you click onto a defender or when you're usering on defense, this will auto move you into position to play the catch when holding down the catch button. This will help kind of steer your player more towards the ball, and this will help you have a higher chance at catching interceptions. If you turn this off, it's actually going to be a lot harder to catch interceptions in this game. Moving on to setting number 3, and this is the most important ones we're going to go over in this video. If you want to get the most out of your passing game and stop throwing interceptions, you need to make sure that your passing settings are on point. Now there's 2 different settings that most people use, either revamped passing or placement and accuracy. Now placement and accuracy does give you a little bit more freedom to freeform the ball, and more advanced players usually like this, but I typically recommend that most people play on revamped passing for multiple reasons. Number 1, it seems to get a lot less inaccuracies than the placement and accuracy setting for some reason, and this gives you much better ball trajectory, which allows you to get the ball over defenders much easier. Now with revamped passing, you need to make sure that your pass lead increase is set to none. You can actually change this, and you would think that changing this would help, but actually leaving this on none is going to give you the best results. In terms of reticle speed, this should be on 20 if you're using revamped passing. This is actually going to help you have the most accurate passes, it's going to cut down on the interceptions, and it's going to give you the best pass leading and trajectories in the game. If you're using the placement and accuracy because you're more advanced and that's the system that you prefer, I would recommend putting the reticle speed around 7 to 10. This is really up to preference, but that's what I found works best. Setting number 4 is something that's going to be the difference between winning and losing games late, and it's something a lot of people overlook. This is going to be all about the coin toss settings, and these are a lot more important than you think. A lot of people will have their coin toss first choice on receive because naturally people want to get the ball first and try to put the pressure on the other team by scoring. But the best thing to do with this is to have this on kick. The reason for that is because you will always get the ball coming out of halftime, and in the event that you actually come out and get a stop early in the game, not only do you have a chance to put up points first, but you also have the chance to get the ball after half, and you can really pile on a lead that way. But another reason why you want to kick first is because whatever your opponent does, you now know what you need to do to match it. If you kick off and then your opponent immediately scores a touchdown on their first drive, well, you know if you want to match them, you need to go score a touchdown. You know exactly what you need to do to keep pace. Now, for the second part of this, you want to make sure that the coin toss second choice is set to against win. This means if you lose the coin toss, the decision you're going to be able to make is, do you want to go with the win or against it? Now, the reason you want to go against the win is because in this game, this will mean that in the fourth quarter, the wind will actually be at your back. So if you have to kick a field goal late in the game to maybe get a win or extend the lead, you want to make sure that the wind is at your back and not coming towards you, because that's going to make it harder to kick field goals. With the wind at your back, you'll actually be able to make longer field goals, so this is very important. For number 5, we're going to go over another crucial defensive setting that a lot of people overlook. This one's going to bring everything full circle. We talked about how to get the interceptions with ball hawk and how to make the tackles with heat seeker, but the switch assist is going to be crucial, because have you ever been in a situation where you accidentally got clicked on to the wrong guy and you thought you were going to be clicked on to somebody else who was maybe a little closer to the ball, and then you wound up taking him out of the play and messing everything up? Well, with the defensive switch assist, if you turn this to on, it's going to prevent that from happening, and this is set to default, so you might not even know that this is happening, but when you click to a defender now post snap, it's going to make sure that it helps steer you in the direction that they're already moving. So if you accidentally get clicked on the wrong guy or you switch stick onto the wrong guy, you're not going to take take him completely out of the play because you were expecting to be switched to somebody else. It'll keep you briefly moving in the same direction so that you can continue going where that defender is intended to go. For number 6, you want to make sure that your auto flip defensive play call is set to on. You can also do this in your coaching adjustments in game, but if you just set this in the main menu, it'll always be that way. This is going to ensure that your defense is always lining up to the strong side of the formation, and you're going to want to make sure your defense is matching up properly with the offense so that you can get the most out of your defense. A lot of people struggle on defense in this game, but if you make sure all these settings are correct, you'll have a much easier time getting those stops and not letting up a ton of points. Now that we've talked about all of the main menu settings, we've got to move to the actual in-game settings that you want to make sure are on point. So for number 7, we're talking about coaching adjustments, and we'll start on the defensive side of the ball first. When you're at your play call screen on defense, you can click the right stick in as if it was a button to bring up your coaching adjustments. Now there's some of these that we don't want to mess with at all, and that'll be number 8. But for number 7, which ones do you actually want to change? One of the key ones you need to change at the start of every game is the option defense read key. You want to make sure this is set to conservative, because when people run read options, especially with fast QBs, if you don't have this set to conservative, the defense is typically going to leave the QB wide open and they will be able to run for ridiculous easy yards. If you set this to conservative, it's going to tell the defense to focus on the QB and he'll actually lose yards in the backfield anytime they try to run a read option. So this forces them to have to make them hand it off to the running back into the teeth of the defense where you have more help. The next coaching adjustment on defense you want to change is tackling, but this is only situational. You want to put this on aggressive if it's late in a game and you're trying to get the ball back. If you're losing in a game and you want a chance to maybe force a fumble, put your tackling on aggressive. The downside to this is there is a higher chance of broken tackles and fakeouts, but let's be honest, in this game, broken tackles and fakeouts happen all the time anyway, so really putting this on aggressive doesn't hurt you that much because you're already going to have a lot of those broken tackles and fakeouts. But especially at the end of a game, if you're like in a do or die situation, you need some way to get the ball back, turn this on aggressive because you will have a higher chance of fumbles because the CPU will go for hit sticks every time. Moving over to the offensive side of the ball, again, you click the right stick in to bring up your coaching adjustments. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever fumbled the ball late in the game and your opponent was able to get back in the game and tie it up or get a win because you fumbled at the worst time? Well, there's a way that you can prevent this, and that's why we want to look at ball carrier. You want to put this on conservative late in games when you have a lead and you're trying to round the clock because it'll make it to where you almost never will fumble the ball. However, you won't be able to perform ball carrier moves with this on conservative, but if you're up late in the game, you don't have to worry about that. Now for blocking, this is a situational one that you're going to want to use. If it's late in the game and you're inside the 5-yard line and you're trying to make sure you could power through and get that touchdown to go up late in the game, you can put this on aggressive, and this is going to allow your blocks to hold for longer. However, it does increase the chance of a holding penalty, but I find that holding penalties don't happen too often on this. They will happen very randomly, but if it's a situation where you need a few yards and you got a few plays to get it and the game's on the line, put this on aggressive to give yourself a better chance to score. For number 8, these are the settings you absolutely do not want to change under any circumstances. Now on the offensive side of the ball for your coaching adjustments, you want to make sure that your deep pass catching and your intermediate pass catching are always set to balance. If you put these on conservative or aggressive, they're going to always go for certain catch types that might not be the best thing to do in that particular situation. You want to make sure that you are telling your receivers how to catch the ball when it's in the air, so leave this on balance. And for your defensive coaching adjustments, the ones you don't want to touch, make sure your cornerbacks are set to balance. Some people like to match them up by overall or by speed, but this can sometimes cause bugs in certain types of defenses that can have your defense all out of whack. So it's just best to leave this on balance so you don't have any of those random instances where you give up a huge gain because something bugged out. And your defensive motion response is best left on default as well.
Now that you know about all of these tips, you've got a lot of information you can use, but something you're going to need is a good offensive scheme, and you can check that out right here on the screen.